Hello, everyone. Well, I'm back again today with more card projects to share with all of you. I'm going to be using some beautiful new stamp sets from Spellbinders, and this is called Into the Wilderness Collection. I chose these two stamp sets from the collection because I think they're really unique and pretty, and the sentiments from these sets is really what sold me on these as well. This one says, "Let's walk together." It's just a simple sentiment, but I love it. And this one's called Forest Silhouette. You can see that I've played with it already. It already has ink on it. This one's called Being Around You Wreath. And the sentiment says, "I miss being around you." And then it has this beautiful, delicate wreath with flowers that you can stamp out, cut out, and then add dimension to your wreath. Put them over the existing flowers there, or whatever you want with. So I'm going to be making 2 cards with these stamp sets today. I'm going to start with the tree silhouette one first. And this is a stamp set that you can use all year round. You could do a forest scene, a fall scene would be gorgeous, but I'm looking forward to spring, so I'm going to be creating a springtime card with this. I'm stamping it out onto a piece of Nina Solar White cardstock. This is the 110 pound. And I'm going to be embossing the tree. So let's add a little bit of anti-static powder first. I love that anti-static powder from Rabbit Hole Designs. To stamp out the trees, I'm using some VersaFine Clair ink, and this is in Fallen Leaves, and it's just a rich, deep, chocolatey brown. It's almost black, but it just has enough brown to make it really soft looking. Well, that didn't make sense, but it's almost black, but not quite. So here we go. I stamped it out twice, and I'm going to pull out a piece of scrap paper and pour over some clear embossing powder. I'll catch the embossing powder with this piece of scrap paper, and then I can just funnel it back into this little tub. Or jar, whatever. Okay, so let's melt this. I let my heat tool heat up for about a minute. And I'm just taking it slow so that I don't warp the cardstock. This is going to allow me to ink blend over it and not smudge it. And also I can buff the ink off of the trees so they don't look dull by the ink I'm going to be blending onto it. Okay, here it is. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do around this panel, so I just put some tape around it to protect the edges. I'm adding some shabby shutters first. It's a really pale, soft green, and then some dried marigold. This is really soft ink I'm putting on, soft colors. Next is Salvage Patina, and then Victorian Velvet. I'd like to do another card like this with really bright, vivid sunset colors. Once I'm done with my ink blending, I'll bring in a tissue and just buff the ink off of the embossed trees. Isn't that just pretty? I'm being careful to kind of just stay on the trees and not buff the ink off of the white panel. So I'm going to save this tape for later. I didn't use it too much. And then I am going to cut around this panel. Here's a close-up look at these soft, beautiful colors. I'm going to stamp the sentiment next in the center of these trees. And I just love that sentiment. It's so fabulous. I only needed to ink it up once. This ink is really dark and thick. Okay, now I'm going to mat this with some corrugated paper. This is from Spellbinders. I don't know if they still have this in the shop, but I love this stuff. It provides some really fun texture. And then I'm matting that with a piece of pink cardstock. So we'll center this on the pink cardstock. And then I'll add more of the double-sided adhesive onto the back of my main panel. My tape runner ran out of tape, and I couldn't find the replacement, so that's why I'm using the double-sided adhesive. This is great stuff, but I have a hard time peeling off the backing. It's kind of slow for me when I have to edit it out. So I usually like to use my dot liner for that purpose. Let's add this to a white card base. And then I love these gold gems. I bought 2 of them because I go through them so fast. But I'm going to add some gold gems around this panel. And I couldn't find my all-in-one tool, which I like to use to pick these gems up to place them on my card. And I can't do it with the tweezers. I know some crafters can, but I just end up flinging the gems all over the place. I'll just use my fingers until I find that. And that's all I'm going to do to this card. Let me show you a close-up look at this. So much fun and really fast to put together. Love that sentiment. Okay, let's move on to card number 2. I'm using some Stonehenge craft paper to stamp my images out on. And I pulled out my Mini Misty again so that I could stamp it up more than once. I like this paper because it has a little bit of tooth to it, and the pencils blend beautifully on it. So let's use the same Fallen Leaves ink and stamp this onto the cardstock. And again, I stamp this up twice. And this time I am not going to emboss it or heat emboss it, but I am going to leave my stamp on the door so that I can restamp it. The colored pencils tend to dull the lines a little bit, so I do like to restamp it once I'm done with my coloring. Now, I got a new set of colored pencils for Christmas, and I love these. These are the Caran d'Ache Luminance, but this is the portrait set, and there are, let me see, 20 pencils in this set. This set is meant for skin tones, but I think it's a great everyday set. It has a nice range of colors in here. This first flower I'm coloring is kind of a dusty purple, and I used 3 different colors. These are all from the set. The only color I pull in that isn't in the set is a pink. So I put my base color down first, or my lightest color. Then I went in with a medium color, and now I'm using this dark purple for my darkest shadows. Then I'm kind of blending it out again. These flowers are so small that they're really fast and easy to color in. So I am going to speed this up here a little bit, but it was just fun coloring in this delicate wreath. It's so stunning. Some of the flowers are going to be pink, so I'm using a light pink, or no, actually this is kind of a skin tone color I'm putting down my base color with. And then here's my pink colored pencil, and then I'm using kind of a brownish tan color here for my darkest shadows. And then you can see how the colored pencils kind of dull the lines. So I will go back and stamp this out once I'm done with all of my coloring. This is a really pale green, and I'll come in with a little bit of a darker green for the shadows. I'll go ahead and do all of the green leaves while I have these pencils in my hand. And then this is going to be really colorful. I'm going to even do some blue flowers and some yellows. Sorry, my head gets in the way here. Some of the flowers are so small. I just wanted to get a up close look at them. I'll do brown centers for those yellow flowers. And then here's some blues. I stamped out all of the single blooms. You see that up to the right. And I didn't end up using them. I just thought it was so pretty just as is. I was going to add a little bit of dimension to it. But I will save that paper, that stamped image paper, for another card. Okay, I'll add a few little pink flowers. And then this last flower here is going to be another pink colored flower. And then this is pretty much done. I'm going to peel up the tape and pop this back in the Mini Misty. But you can see what it looks like now, and I'll show you again after I stamp it out how it just crisps up the lines beautifully. And I'm going to stamp it up with the same black ink. At this point, if you wanted to stamp it and then pour some clear embossing powder over it, now would be the time to do that. That would make it look shiny and pretty and add just a touch of dimension to it. But I just liked it the way it was, so it's just going to be kind of simple this time. Okay, let me hold this up for you so you can see how much better the lines on this image look now that I've restamped it. And now for this darling sentiment that says, I like being, I miss being around you. Cute. I'll stamp it up one more time. And then I'm going to pull out the circle die to cut this out. I'll tape this down so that it doesn't shift when I run it through my die cutting machine. And here it is, all ready to go. I'm using some Dusty Rose cardstock and a hem stitch die to cut out this panel. I also chose some, let's see, I believe it's called Lavender Fusion cardstock, or the purple around the wreath. I'm going to add a little bit of cracked pistachio around my card base so that you see the green through the hem stitching. The purple circle I'm just going to glue down flat, and it's going to go off the side of my card, but I think it looks really cute that way, so I'm just going to let it be. I'm not going to trim it down. And then my main circle, I'm going to pop up with some foam pieces, but first I decided to add a little bit of vintage photo to distress the edges. It just helps it pop a little bit more. Now I can place this inside the purple cutout. It's a little bit crooked. I'm just trying to get the sentiment so it's straight up and down. There we go. I'm going to add some more of the gold gems around my wreath. And here it is all done. Isn't that just old-fashioned looking and pretty? As always, I'll have the links to all of the products I used to make these cards listed in the description box below. This is a really fun collection, and again, it's called Into the Wilderness Collection. Thanks so much for spending a little bit of your time with me today. I hope you were inspired. Take care, everyone. Bye.